It's time for another episode of The Oil Stream with Dustin Nielsen and Tom Gazzola, presented by Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Nielsen and Gazzola with you. It's another episode of The Oil Stream, part of the Nielsen Media Cool Bet Network, as always presented to you by our wonderful partners at Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen, where they are celebrating the 2-year anniversary of the Popeye's chicken sandwich, buddy. How delicious is that here in Canada? My goodness, 2 years already. Good times fly by, and what better way to celebrate the 2-year anniversary of the Popeye's chicken sandwich than with a Popeye's chicken sandwich? It just makes sense.
Well, no wonder I went to Popeye's on Friday and got a Popeye's chicken sandwich with some nugs to celebrate the weekend, and then of course 2 years of it. So it all aligns. Sometimes the universe gives you one, and when it comes to chicken sandwiches, Friday was my day.
The old Popeye's chicken sandwich / nugs stack. I like it. That's really good. Sometimes you can open up the chicken sandwich, take some of the nugs, put them on top, squish it back down, and really go to town on it.
Hey, I did get also a small side of mac and cheese. What if you took the mac and cheese
and
put it on top of the chicken sandwich?
Just stop. Just stop with your crazy food ideas, Tommy. That's absolutely insane. Actually, speaking of food ideas, you had a sandwich right before we started. What type of sandwich did you make at home? What type of sandwich does Tommy Gazzola make at home?
I don't usually make much at home. I'll readily admit that. I'm sure that comes as no surprise to anyone. I quickly, when I came back from the rink, ran over to Safeway right by my place and went to the deli, because when they make a sandwich for you, it's generally with love. And I think it's what puts those sandwiches over the top. I had a turkey chipotle bacon on ciabatta. It was very good. Very good.
That Safeway deli used to hit that up quite a bit for sandwiches, but I would get like the paninis, and it would just take forever to make. So I finally just gave up. I finally just gave up on them, but they, can be delicious at times. That's for sure. But why would you want to go there when you can go get a Popeye's chicken sandwich? So pick one up today. The West Edmonton Mall location, their 20th location, on the verge of opening here in the next 5 or 6 days. So make sure you keep tabs on that. Lots to get to in this episode of The Oil Stream. We'll get to Cool Bet Inside the Numbers a little bit later on. And we'll certainly get to your Boston Pizza appetizer in just one moment. But Tommy, down at the rink today, prospects are there. All the testing before they head off to Penticton for 3 games in 4 days. Starting on Friday. They'll play Friday, Saturday, and Monday, I believe. Anything of note coming from the rink today?
Philip Broberg put on 10 to 15 pounds. Philip Broberg is focused on his defensive game, and then he'll let the offense come to him. And, that's kind of the gist of it. There was a lot of hurry up and wait, as is tradition, at the first day of either rookie camp or actual main camp. It's the testing, and the players are going through the rigors of that. And there was a lot of twiddling our thumbs and just sitting around, and that's just the way it is all across the board. So I ended up popping over to the practice rink because they were breaking down one of the concerts, the Roger Waters concert yesterday, and I think they're getting ready for a couple more. So they had the players at the DCA. So Mooner and I went and sat there and met the new Swedish scout for the Oilers, and also caught up with a bunch of the scouting staff as well, which was great. And it was just another day at the rink. We're back, Dusty. That's what it feels like. You know those days. We're just back.
Did you happen to see one of my favorites, Jimmy Crossan?
I was talking with Jimmy Crossan.
I love Crossan. He's the best.
He's such a good dude. And Bob Green and Keith Gretzky, Bill Scott, the whole gang was there, Kenny Holland. So yeah, Mooner and I were the only ones. We were just kind of like waiting around, and Gene's back was hurting. So he went and he's like, I need to sit down, boys. Yeah. And then I was like, you know what? That's a cue for me to get out of here. So I just said I was going to go watch, and Mooner's like, I'm coming with you. And people are asking if these skates are open to the public. They are not, but I have noticed there are fans like on the glass when they're at the DCA. They're not always at the DCA, obviously, but
looking in through the windows.
They're watching, yeah. So you can go. It's obviously a public facility. You can go and watch from outside the glass.
Yeah. Okay. So if you wanted to go watch through a couple layers of glass, you can go do that if you really want to. If you really want to check it out. I mean, did you see anything on the ice, buddy? Anybody light it up or no?
Well, Ryan Murray was out there and Cody Ceci, they were back. We weren't at the rink yesterday, obviously, because we're at the Oilers Media Golf Tournament, which was a fantastic job. Well done by the PR staff, Jamie Cartmel and Tim Shipton and Sean May. No, Dusty, like you can't really glean a ton from these things. And everyone's curious because everyone's excited. But Mooner at one point turned and he looked at me. He's like, this is like Friday, 2:00 drop-in sessions at Grand Trunk, but really, 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 really skilled. And I was like, yeah, it is. But the pace was good. And only 2 goalies out there. It was only Pickard and Campbell. Like, people were wondering why that's the case. Like, these guys, sometimes they have stuff to do. Some days, maybe they just don't want to be on the ice. And until we get to training camp, it doesn't really matter. Like, McDavid wasn't on the ice.
Is Stuart Skinner not even taking this seriously? What the hell?
Please don't make those assumptions, because I saw those kinds of tweets coming at me, and I'm like, come on, you guys. These are informal sessions. They're not actual, skates. But
yeah, I mean, why don't one of those goalies would have to come and sit on the bench? Like, why would you do that? I mean, just rotate the guys, let them go out, play, and let the other guy have a day off. It doesn't make any sense to freak out on that. Yeah. Just to reiterate what you said, thanks to the Oilers communication staff for putting together yesterday. Managed to pick up a title, courtesy Dustin Schwartz and Rob Brown.
Yes,
Rob Brown was probably knocking pretty solid 250, 260 down the middle most of the day. And we were still stopping to pick up his ball because you know how fired up Schwartz he gets, right?
Yes.
Like, we see it in the press box. Like, he's very passionate and emotionally invested into pretty much everything he does. And imagine him taking all of that emotion that we see up in the press box and channeling it into his driver and then hitting it dead straight. I'm talking, I think the longest one we probably gauged was like 325, buddy. Like, just... It was insane. Like, we had 40 yards into pretty much every single green at the country club. It was nuts. Just nuts.
Yeah. Schwartzy, and he shoots the puck really well for a goalie. He's built, he's strong. And when we went up to the long drive, I thought we would see a couple of like the bigger guys. Schwartzy's not the tallest, but he's built. He's thick. You see Tony Brar with his name on there first, and we're like, yeah, Tony probably was the first guy to hit the fairway today. And then we're like, Schwartzy, no surprise.
Well, when we got up there, he hit it, we roll up to it, and it just stayed inside the fairway, but it was on the fairway. And we roll up, and I was just like, he's like, I think this is the longest drive. And we're like, well, where's the thing? And we looked back. He had to go back like 100 yards to pick up the long drive thing and bring it up. It was insane, but a fun day. Really good time getting out there, and looking forward to the season, obviously, again, getting cranked up a notch. Let's dive into your Boston Pizza appetizer, of course, brought to you by our wonderful partners at Boston Pizza. Takeout and delivery options are just a click away at bostonpizza.com, or just download the BP's app, and they can get that taken care of for you as well. Happy hour every day from 2 to 5, and then again from 9 until close. And we are just locking up the date. It'll either be the 28th or 30th, final week of September for our next on location. We're just locking up the location so you can pop by and join us as we work our way into the preseason with Boston Pizza. Lots of Jake Virtanen discussion, Tommy. And the one thing I want to get into, because looking like it could be a PTO for him. Daniel Nugent-Bowman had that great piece breaking down how they might have to start the roster with 21 players. And I talked to DMB a little bit yesterday about it, and he said just the way it might have to be here. So you can bring in Virtanen on a PTO. You're going to have to get McLeod done as well. Is there a way that they let's say Virtanen comes in on a PTO, looks okay, looks like he could play, even if he's the 13th forward, 4th liner, whatever. Do you think they have room to give Virtanen a contract, get McLeod signed, and not move Jesse Puljujärvi? Or does Puljujärvi essentially, you can bring Virtanen in on a PTO for sure. Yeah. And maybe you kind of look at it and go, hey, man, this guy can do just as much as this guy can do, and he's not going to make $3 million. And maybe that's the final straw on some sort of Jesse Puljujärvi trade. But is there any way that both could coexist financially on this roster?
I'm not a guru when it comes to the cap, and I'm bad at mathematics as well. I'll readily admit that, but logically, I don't see how. And DNB is really good at digging into that, and that's why you have a cap strategist and someone on the payroll that takes care of that. I don't think you can, Dusty. I could very well be wrong. And I don't really see a situation where they would want that to be the case either. Like, yes, they want Virtanen on a PTO and, they're interested in him and we'll see what happens. Like, and I've heard Calgary's the other team kind of trying to get him in on a PTO. And we know that his heartstrings would be drawn to Calgary, obviously. So like, I think if Virtanen came in, if Virtanen was in great shape and played well and earned a spot, it would come at the expense of Jesse Puljujarvi. Like, there's no having the best of both worlds. It feels like, and I think logically, is a situation where it's either one or the other. And I mean, that's a hypothetical because we don't even know if Virtanen would take a PTO offer here.
Yeah, it's just, I was kind of thinking about it because you talked about it with me on the show today. Everybody's been talking about it in town for the last little while. And I'm just trying to think of how the process works here. Because you bring in Virtanen on PTO. I guess if he doesn't look like he belongs or doesn't look like it's going to be what you hoped it would be, you just kind of release him. You still have Jesse Puljujarvi. Or if you get to a point where, okay, hey, look, it looks like Virtanen's you're not going to have to pay him much. I understand that, but that's a body that you can throw on the right side. Then do you look at maybe some of these offers you have on Jesse Puljujarvi and just go, screw it. We'll take the best one and we'll move on and kind of slot Virtanen in on the right side. I feel like that's almost the way it has to be, man.
It seems like that's what we're getting closer and closer to, and it's a tough pill to swallow if it does come to fruition. And some might suggest, well, okay, you get rid of Foegele and another guy that makes like $1 million, or Derek Ryan or something like that. And again, you look at it, take a step back and go, well, why would you move out 2 roster players and create an extra hole to bring in one guy that might not even want to stick around, because he's, in this case with Virtanen, reclamation project. So that logically wouldn't make a lot of sense either. And I've seen the war charts are back. I've seen a bunch of them floating around, Dusty, and I get it. I know that people are attached to Jesse Puljujarvi, but just the fact is, if there's a trade to be made, it is likely him that goes, Foegele potentially maybe, but it's quite likely Jesse Puljujarvi, and you're hearing that noise pick up, and it's not just a narrative; it's being said because there's legitimacy to it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know how much I'd expect from Virtanen, to be honest with you. I mean,
me neither.
He had a lot of time in Vancouver where they weren't very good, and he was one of the guys who got a chance to play a lot. And I think he's hit 18 goals once, 15 goals once, 10 goals once. Basically didn't move the needle last year in the KHL. And in his final year with the Canucks, I mean, he had 5 goals and no assists in 38 games, like half a season. You put up those numbers here, you'll personally get an escort from the media and fans back to the airport. So it'd be interesting to see how it works out. If it works out at all, but there's an interesting process there. Jesse Puljujarvi, an interesting one as well. When you look at it, there's like 6, 7, 8 teams that would have the cap space to bring him in right now, and the Ducks have been one that have kind of popped up a little bit. And I mean, I could see that being a fit. They've got a bunch of picks over the next couple of years. They got like $16 million in cap space. They've got a forward group that Jesse Puljujarvi could very likely, play quite a bit in and make an impact in. Like, if anything happens, I wonder, and they've got a head coach who is a big analytic guy and, I think likes players who are in very good shape. And Jesse Puljujarvi certainly would be ripped enough to go ride bikes with Dallas Eakins. So, I don't know. Maybe it plays out here over the next little while where Virtanen comes in, looks okay. They dump Puljujarvi for a pick to the Ducks, and it's all said and done. Who knows?
Dusty, I'll just throw in this extra little tidbit. You bring up the Ducks coach, Dallas Eakins. I heard that he's kind of sniffed around on Puljujarvi as well to kind of find out what the player and the person is like. So maybe there's a fit there. We shall see. But yeah, that's a team that's kind of popped up recently. It's like, oh, maybe they make that happen.
That is your Boston Pizza Appetizer. Once again, Appy Hour daily, 2 to 5 p.m. and then again from 9 p.m. until close. And big thanks to Boston Pizza for being on board for the upcoming season with the Oil Stream. All right, Ryan McLeod. This is a little bit of an interesting one, and we'll come back around and have some fun stuff here with McLeod in the Inside the Numbers, Tommy. But, I mean, basically how it's been laid out to me is that Like basically a handshake deal done. If they have the cap space, they could do a 2-year deal. If they can't move a body, being Puljujarvi or Foegele, whoever, it's likely a 1-year deal. Do you think it matters at this stage for Ryan McLeod? Like if the Oilers have to settle and give him a 1-year deal instead of 2, I mean, this isn't a guy who all of a sudden next year's a $3.5 million player, right? Like I don't feel like giving this guy a 1-year deal is going to come back and burn you next year.
I don't think the chances of that are very high. That's why it seems very calm around Ryan McLeod. Like he's been skating, he's been with the guys. There's no tension or holdout scenarios. You know, we've seen younger guys going into their second contract hold out or they make it difficult. That's not the case here. It seems like you said, you bring up the handshake deal, like an understanding. Ryan McLeod is a player that shows us some good flashes, and you like the way he's progressing. And, you know, I laughed a couple times last year. People would text in to either the pre and post game show, and they would be like, "Oh, you got to get this guy locked up. What do you think about $3 million?
I know
for 5 years." It's like, why? He really hasn't done anything. And there's a chance that he has a good season this year, and it might cost them a little bit more if they only do a 1-year deal. But I do think now I kind of get the sense that as you hear the revenue for the NHL is picking up, we're coming out of COVID and the frozen cap. Like I think now the GMs are planning ahead where things are going to open up a little bit. So I can't see a situation where he goes off and scores 25 goals and 25 assists this season. All of a sudden he's asking for a multi-year, $3 to $4 million per contract. Like I think next year, you know, maybe he does have a good year. Instead of asking for 1.5, he's asking for 2. I think you can make that work too. Now, again, that's a big what if, but there's no pressure. There doesn't seem like there's any tension or anything like that, and they'll likely get something done.
Yeah, it just seems like when it gets to like that final minute, they're going to be like, "Hey, we got the space. We'll give you a couple years." Oh, we don't. You get 1 year. We'll do it again next year. This is not something that's going to drag on here. I think if people were worried about that, but let's use Ryan McLeod to dive into our Cool Bet Inside the Numbers segment. Stay cool, bet responsibly over at Cool Bet, and a lot of the player props that we're talking about, the numbers will be adjusted by their bookmakers, but a lot of these Oilers will make sure you get them up. You can go bet the over under for the upcoming season. So let's talk Ryan McLeod, Tommy. If I was to set the number for Ryan McLeod at, say, 34.5 points for the upcoming season, are you on the over or are you on the under for Ryan McLeod?
Yeah, I'm going to go on the under. And the reason why is I think that he's likely going to be more in a third, fourth line position. Maybe get some PK time. I don't think he's going to be a guy that's put out there very much for A, power play, and B, I don't think he's going to get a ton of 5-on-5 time. Like I could see him playing 12 to 15 minutes, maybe less, depending on how the game's going, where he's slotted in that night in regards to the lineup. I could see him having a 25 to 30 point season, but getting to 35, I think, somebody would have to get hurt. He would have to get elevated, and he would have to go on a nice tear to get past 34.5 to reach that 35-point mark. So I'm going with the under. How about you?
Yeah, I'd be on the under here as well if it was set at 34.5, just based on from an ability standpoint. Does Ryan McLeod skate well enough and have the skill level to be a 40 or 45-point guy in the National Hockey League? Yeah. Sure. Why not? But if he's going to get any power play time, it's a second unit power play that never plays. You're not going to generate much offense on the penalty kill. And like you said it, man, he's going to play 12 minutes a night total. He's going to have to go on a hell of a tear 5-on-5 scoring to get up there at 34, 35, 36, 37 points. If he does, that's a really good season for Ryan McLeod. What would you think the reason, 27.5, 28.5, somewhere in that range? Does that make it a little bit more of a debatable conversation?
Yeah, I think so. If you threw that at me, I was kind of like, oh, this might be a tough one. But I think he's an easy 10-10. That's a very
well, he had 21 points this year in 71 games, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I think this year will likely be very similar to last year, and where we'll see growth is in his consistency, maybe tilting the ice,
physical play a bit, maybe.
Offensive zone. maybe there's a little bit more jam to his game. He doesn't strike me as the type of guy that likes to get into that type of thing, but you never know. Guys kind of get confidence and their bodies mature and stuff, and they get a little bit of old man strength, and things might change. You might get a little feisty, but yeah, I think 25 points is if he has 25 points this year, you're like, that's good for a third, fourth liner that's really playing only his second real full National Hockey League season.
That is inside the numbers for Cool Bet. Stay cool, bet responsibly with our partners over at coolbet.com. And that is going to bring it. I was hoping we could get, inside 20 minutes here. And then we would have had time to get to all you Fogle haters who just continue to wait and try to get this guy traded, which is just insane. But unfortunately, we're not gonna have time. We are going to be launching the Oilers rankings of importance. That's going to be coming up here in the month of September on the Oil Stream as well. But between now and then, Tommy, anything else to add, or should we just get out of here?
Oh, you know what I always say. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Hit that thumbs up button. #influence and all day, day.
Talk to you Friday, buddy. See you later, man.
See you, Dusty.